Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Think Future. My name's Chris Kalaboukis, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking innovation startups, the future, not necessarily those, and not necessarily in that order. If you're watching on YouTube, smack that subscribe button and hit that bell so you can be notified when a new show comes online. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast service, please subscribe and please drop a note on Apple Podcasts. I'd greatly appreciate it. So this is part 4 of 4, although I may do more later, of my minimum viability series. Now, if you haven't been listening to the series from the beginning, I suggest you go back to the beginning and listen to the entire series because I think it's super interesting. And I think it's something that we should be doing. We are not really looking at the opposite side of the equation. I mean, we're looking at trying to fix education, and we're looking at trying to fix housing, and we're looking at trying to fix food, and we're looking at trying to fix work. But we don't know where we should be going with it. We don't know what the goals should be. Now, if you're not familiar with the MVP or minimum viable product, it is a concept that's come out of the lean startup, which is, let's say you want to build a concept, a product. You want to get a product out the door. What you do is you do the least amount of work required to get it out the door. And even if it looks embarrassing, get it into the hands of your customers or your prospective customers so that those customers can look at it and go, yes, this is exactly what I need, or no, you need to pivot it, or no, you need to do something like that. And I've already talked about this when the dude was coming out with the pop sockets. Pop sockets were originally for wrapping your earbud cord around. Of course, nobody has earbud cords anymore. So he threw it out into the world, and his customers said, I prefer to use it as a stand or as a handle. And boom, he pivoted to that, and look at what a success pop sockets is. So we're looking for the same kind of concept. We're looking for the minimum of viability, but we're taking the concept of minimum viability and we're applying it to these huge dent the universe problems. In the first episode, we talked about education. The second episode, we talked about living, domiciles, homes. Yesterday, we talked about, what did we talk about? Food. That's right. We talked about food. So today I want to talk about another thing that's near and dear to my heart, is the future of work. And I think we're in the same kind of situation right now where we know what we don't want, but we don't really know what we want. We know what we don't want, but we don't really know what we want. And I'll tell you why I think that is. Did you know that the very first telecommuter started telecommuting in 1982? That's right, 40 plus years ago. 1982 was the first telecommuter. It's a huge article in the New York Times talking about how they put this woman at home, they gave her a computer, they gave her a phone, and she was the very first telecommuter. It was newsworthy. And since that time, the technology has advanced so that telecommuting becomes easier and easier and easier. And in fact, telecommuting has probably been doable since, I don't know, mid-2000s, right? Probably around the mid-2000s, we were probably had the technical capability to be able to telecommute as well as we do today, almost as well as we do today. I mean, we had things like WebEx, we had teleconferencing, we had the tools to be able to telecommute probably 10 years ago. Let's just give it a lot of leeway and say 2010. Okay, so 12 years ago, we had the capability. Maybe we'll go, let's say 10 years ago, 2012. So in 2012, 10 years ago, we had the power and the capability to telecommute from anywhere. We had smartphones, they all had cameras. We had the technology to telecommute. We could telecommute. In fact, most of us who did the soft stuff, we didn't do the hard stuff. We didn't go into a lab and build something. Most of us who did management or project management or product management or innovation or all these things, we did it. It's a mental exercise. You didn't need to actually be in the office to do it. But in 2012, you were expected to be in the office to do it. Very few people were telecommuting. It was a small number of people who were telecommuting at that time. And the reason why people were telecommuting at the time is because The companies didn't want people to telecommute. They wanted people to be in the office. I bought this office space and you're going to be in the goddamn office. So people had to do ridiculous commutes, especially in areas like this, because it was so damn expensive to live nearby. They had to buy a house far, far away, and they would commute 2 hours each way to get to the office. And this is what it was like. And this is what it was like even up to 2 years ago. Even up to just before the pandemic. Most people did not telecommute. Most people still had to go into an office 5 days a week. And I can tell you that, right? Because I could see the traffic around here. Most people didn't have to telecommute. Or weren't allowed to telecommute. Were encouraged not to telecommute, even though the technology was there, even though anybody could have done it. In 2019, a lot of people were not telecommuting, or maybe they were telecommuting 1 day a week. Come the pandemic, come the crisis, all of a sudden, in almost no time at all, almost 100% of these companies in the roles that could telecommuted. It was a flip. It went the complete opposite way because the technology was there and we just needed that cultural push to get people to do that. So here we are, where we are today, and we're in this weird mishmash land where some companies are saying you got to come into the office and other companies are saying you can stay at home full time or anywhere, work from anywhere full time. And the reality is that we did studies and it seems that telecommuting is way better for employee wellness. It's way better because they don't have to do a commute. They spend more time eating better foods. They spend more time cooking better foods. They spend more time exercising. They spend less time doing things they don't like and more time doing things they love. So when companies say, hey, you got to come back into the office now, they're like, I'm out of here. The Great Resignation. So what does this have to do with minimum viability? Well, I was talking earlier about what's the minimum viability of work? What is the minimum amount of time that somebody needs to be actually working? Because we also have a conversation about the 4-hour work week. People are already saying, well, do we really need to have a 5-day work week? 4-hour work week. I mean, 4-day work week. What am I talking about? Am I Tim Ferriss? No. We're talking about the 4-day work week. People are starting to take Fridays off. People are starting to take Mondays off. There's experiments happening in I think it's Norway or Scandinavia. I thought Scandinavia is part of Norway, right? There are experiments in Scandinavia where it's a completely different type of work. And I think we still haven't figured out, and this is where I come to minimum viability again, is that just like with education and housing and food, we haven't figured out, we haven't cracked what the minimum amount of work or minimum amount of location that somebody needs to be at in order for them to be doing their jobs. Let's figure that out. Let's focus on the absolute minimum amount of time that somebody needs to work per week and just make it that. And I think if you look at it, it's all different. Because if you think about it, a lot of times when people were at the office, when they had a long commute to the office and they had a long commute back from the office, how much of that 8 plus hours did they actually work in that period of time? How much of it was getting coffees, going for smoke breaks if they smoked, getting lunches, getting afternoon snacks, getting coffees again, getting to their car, getting from their car? Just think of all of the time that was wasted by people in offices playing foosball. I know at Yahoo they were doing that a lot. People were wasting time in offices not being productive. But now they roll out of bed, they flap on their computer immediately, and boom, they get work done. And then if they've got to do something personal, they log off, they do something personal, they go back in. Work is not monolithic anymore. There's not an 8-hour block of work bookmarked or bracketed by commute times. We don't have that anymore. Work is Lego blocks. You do a little work, you do a little social, you do a little personal, you do some work again, you have a long work block, you have a short work block, whatever. This is work nowadays. Work is compartmentalized. It's modularized. Work and life meld together around each other. And that is the minimum viability when it comes to work. I think we need to get to something like that. That is the future of work. The future of work is that we should be like Uber drivers. Got our phones. I'm working, I'm not working. I'm working, I'm not working. I'm working, I'm not working. That's the future of work. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.